It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you look on that gigantic, sharp, interactive board, you'll see a couple of puzzle pieces. One of those pieces has a Xerox logo. The other piece has the ITsavvy logo. Xerox adding a piece to their puzzle. You know, ladies and gentlemen, when I read this acquisition last week, I said to myself, well, will they do it different? And I think a lot of people are asking that question. Will Xerox do it different? And if they do it different, what will they do different? What will they do different from Konica, Minolta, or Ricoh? We know that back in 2011, Konica, Minolta bought All Covered, a nationwide IT services company where they're going to change the game. We know in 2014, Ricoh bought MindShift, an IT services company. We're going to change the game. And ladies and gentlemen, in all reality, either Ricoh or Konica, Minolta is known anywhere in the world as an IT services company. Come on. It's just the reality. So Xerox, what will you do different? How will you reinvent this strategy? It's so important. And the quicker you can get that information into the marketplace, the better it will be. Because it is important. Because Xerox will get a whole lot more scrutiny from Wall Street than either Ricoh or Konica Minolta did. Xerox will get tons of scrutiny on this. And they're going to have to show progress. They're going to have a clearly defined game plan. And more importantly, they're going to have to be able to execute. So before I jump on the gigantic, sharp, interactive board, I do want to do a big shout out and say thank you to Gary Haerhoff. And Gary Haerhoff is the president of the CDA. Tomorrow I get on an airplane. I'll be flying to Vegas. I look forward to speaking at the CDA event on Thursday. I look forward to catching up with some friends all over the country. So Gary, I'll see you tomorrow. But folks, as Xerox goes through their reinvention, I hope they, along with all of my friends that are going through a reinvention, pay attention to the end user. And I hope we pay attention to today's end user. Not to an end user that maybe built an IT services company that's 20 years old. Not to an end user that helped build a print services company that's 100 years old. But to today's end user. To the end user you want to put in the puzzle with you. Because it is the most important piece of that puzzle. We've all read the press release. Xerox paid $400 million for ITsavvy. And folks, let me just read this. As part of our reinvention, we have created a greater organizational focus on our emerging IT services capabilities to diversify our revenue streams and geographies we serve, said John Bruno, President and Chief Operating Officer of Xerox. Xerox knows they have to reinvent themselves. They have to bring in revenue to displace the declining revenue print. They get it. They know it. But buying up a nationwide IT services company, we've got some examples. And I'm concerned, and I'll remain cautiously optimistic. But I was intrigued by the $400 million price tag. And folks, in this press release, it said that ITsavvy produced $400 million in revenue on a trailing 12-month basis. And so I'm just thinking about this $400 million in revenue, selling for $400 million, so that means they got revenue for the deal. So I did a little math, and this math makes me ask questions. So if ITsavvy was producing a 20% EBITDA, and they got 5 times that, that would be revenue. But if ITsavvy was producing a 20% EBITDA, I would think they would get a bigger multiple than 5. So something's off. And I just, that's a little concerning, because if ITsavvy was not performing, at or above some first world-class standards, then coming together with Xerox, with a history of providing print services, there could be some struggles. You would think best in class, knock it out of the park, folks, would be a little bit easier to help guide Xerox, if you will. So that is just a little bit concerning, and I'm just wondering, we'll never know this, but what was the EBITDA over there at ITsavvy? And folks, I go to ITsavvy's website. They're an IT services company like any other major national company you'd see. They have solutions, services, and cloud. They're dabbling in all this stuff. They're helping customers navigate that IT infrastructure, the cloud, if you will. They're selling IT products to end users. But folks, this was the page on the website that kind of really made me ask some questions. Let me read this to you. Your end-to-end technology solutions provider, IT products, managed services, or cloud solutions, our trusted advice gives you greater peace of mind. With advanced certificates, dedicated service, and strong partner relationships, ITsavvy offers end-to-end support for your IT lifecycle. This is the part I want you all to pay attention to really close. As a premier provider of trusted IT solutions, ITsavvy has over 4 million products and 2,000 plus brands at our 46 distribution centers across the U.S. This is the thing that just jumped off the page at me. So you got this nationwide IT services company, ITsavvy, doing $400 million in revenue for the trailing 12 months with 46 distribution centers. And I am really curious what the revenue of the $400 million is in product. And maybe that's why we didn't see a big purchase price on the company. I mean, if 3/4 of the $400 million is just products as part of these 4 million products going out the door, we all know that products are absolutely the lowest profit there is, right? The profits are in the services. So that just brought up a question. And these 46 distribution centers, I don't even understand that at all. Now, that will be an absolute add back for Xerox, because I could see them get rid of all those distribution centers and just using the distribution centers that Xerox currently uses. Companies like TD SYNNEX. So I have to ask the question, and of course I'll never get the answer, but what's the revenue buckets for ITsavvy? You got cloud, you got solutions, you got services, and of course product revenues. And more importantly, which bucket will Xerox put this revenue when you look at Xerox buckets? And folks, I've talked about this before, and I've been a little critical of Xerox and all the other friends of mine that don't want to separate out numbers, kind of want to lump everything together. But I don't believe that you can reinvent yourself. I don't believe you can turn a big ship and change course without proper navigation. And proper navigation is understanding the details of where you're going, both the revenue and the cost associated with that. You should be proud of the revenue, and you should be proud of the cost, because you're controlling the cost as you drive the revenue. Those should be numbers that you should be willing to brag about to the world, especially if you're going to reinvent yourself so the world is more comfortable with you. We all know, I said it, Xerox is going to get more scrutiny than Konica Minolta or Ricoh ever did. Ever. Wall Street's going to be looking at this like crazy. You know, Xerox has a third quarter earnings call coming out. It's next week, or this week actually, and it will be very, very interesting how they talk about this. I can't wait to listen in on that call. But folks, you know, Xerox has two buckets for the most part. They have a transactional revenue, which represents 35% of their total revenue, and they got revenue subject to multi-year contracts, which represents 65% of their revenue. They currently have the IT services and the contractual print digital services, which is in the revenue subject to multi-year contracts. And they're, you know, most of these OEMs and these major players in our industry, they just hope nobody even goes into this detail. They hope that the print revenue will keep everybody happy until they figure out the other revenue and the other profit from the other revenue, and then they can start sharing it. But folks, that's what Konica Minolta thought they could do. That's what Ricoh thought they could do. And at the end of the day, are either one of those companies recognized as an IT services company? Hell no. I mean, in their own minds they might be, but they sure aren't in the minds of the end users. Xerox, please have the discipline to share the real details of this, because we're going to see where some of these numbers fall as you add this $400 million revenue to your buckets. A caution for Xerox: managing digital transformation for the SMB marketplace will take a collective of skills, not a collection of companies. Xerox, focus on collecting skills. Don't collect companies, please. Don't do what these folks did. We saw Konica Minolta buy All Covered 14 years ago and then go on a shopping spree. We see Ricoh buying Mindshift here in the U.S. then doing a big impairment charge against what they bought here in the U.S. Now they're in Europe gobbling up IT services companies. I've showed these episodes to you before. I don't believe All Covered ever grew from the day that it was born organically. It was a collection of companies. And we recently saw where they started dumping some. That crazy ERP system got thrown in the trash. A month or 2 months ago from Konica. But at the end of the day, Konica bought 24 companies since they've owned All Covered. All Covered bought 16 companies the 3 years prior to Konica buying them. I don't think the company ever had any accountability to grow organically, so they didn't. And unfortunately, what did they do? They just built a big mess as far as I'm concerned. Does anybody believe that Konica Minolta or Ricoh have some kind of a global strategy around IT? Come on. No one would believe that. No one could even articulate what it is. So Xerox, please, learn from this. Xerox, I see them as a cloud management company. And we all know that managing people in the cloud involves security, applications, licensing for software. There's all kinds of things that have to do with managing a cloud infrastructure for the SMB. And I really believe that's what Xerox wants to do one day. They want to be the SMB orchestrator, if you will, for the cloud. You know exactly what these pieces are that they put together, helping these end users. Time will tell. But Xerox, I'll tell you, you can't go into the marketplace and try to be this IT services company in the way that Ricoh and Mindshift and Konica Minolta and All Covered did. Those are great lessons. And you will get a whole lot more scrutiny from Wall Street than Ricoh or Konica ever did. Can you accomplish this? Time will tell. But I think you have to hold yourself accountable publicly for all the revenue. Share with the whole damn world the discipline and the approach to market as quick as you can. And I know some things are a secret, but at the end of the day, if the end users don't understand what you're doing, and the marketplace in general doesn't understand what you're doing, you will, in fact, join that club that Konica Minolta and All Covered and Ricoh and Mindshift are in. And there's another member. There's another big IT company that we should have learned something from out there, a company called CompuCon, and CompuCon sold to Office Depot. And Office Depot, a retail location for office supplies, thinking they could deliver IT services. They were going to try to navigate that big ship in a different direction. And we all saw the disaster that ended in. So Xerox doesn't mean you can't do it. But you could do it if you hold yourself accountable and you share all the details with the world, because everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo. And my friends, I'll see you from the road in Vegas.